And here we go. Trying something new. I've just been experimenting a bit with format on my other channel. Thought I'd experiment a bit with format on this one. So we're going to just sort of get right into it. And... oh, hello, Mask. And yes, the electronic noise in the intro music is deliberate. It's meant to create the idea that it's sort of being heard from far off in space. Yeah, I went to a great deal, I went to great lengths to create that, that noise. Okay. So, giving this a little bit of an early start. Yesterday we watched James O'Keefe explain how he's hoping to dodge a little bit of the libel liability through his new media venture, OMG Media, where instead of paying people to make fake videos for him, he will simply harvest people's the fake videos people make on their own at their own expense and make money off of them. It was a grift that Tim Pool and Moonlord and them were duly impressed at the strength of this grift. So let me see. Hard times for young men, revolutionary energy around the world. From the guy who thinks that it's some sort of communist victory that a U.S. investor wants to buy up the economy of North Korea.
Sometimes in life you need a push. Sometimes people...
yeah, like the time he got pushed out of CPI by the members of his cult because he was a creepy cultist sex pest asshole. Yeah, that was the time he got a push.
Have to come along and get you out of your comfort zone. Sometimes they have to shake you awake. It's something that has to happen sometimes. Now, you can argue about different ways it might...
oh, I want to be recording this. Oh, this is from the same summit where he demonstrated that he didn't understand how to derive surplus value.
Happen, but sometimes you have to get people out of their comfort zone to get them to do what needs to be done. Those two guys certainly knew that.
Okay, help me out. Who's the guy on the right there? I mean, Stalin. Okay, that's a new way of introducing Stalin. I have to say that he was somebody who helped get people out of their comfort zone. Like, I mean, Stalin, the self-help-entrepreneur. But who is that on the right? I can't quite make out the face. Is that John Brown?
I'm going to take time in this presentation
change the camera
point out something that perhaps isn't the most scientific Marxist thing ever to say.
What? You're shocking me, Caleb. You're going to say something that isn't necessarily all that scientifically Marxist? Oh, shit. Yes, I see. Let me adjust that. I mean, it actually looks a bit like Peter Capaldi from here. But I don't think it's Peter Capaldi.
But women are better than men, okay? And we don't believe in...
well, I mean, if your sample is Caleb Maupin, it seems like it would be hard to argue with this.
Biological determinism, we don't believe in the inherent superiority of any genders and sexes, but women are better than men. Women are better organizers than men, okay? Let's be real. We men, we like to get up here and give speeches, and we're always competing with the other guys, but women... no.
Oh, God, okay, so... He's just really kind of running the self-help grift circuit now. I mean, at some point, he is going to welcome Gary V into the fold, I'm sure of it.
Know how to hold groups together. They know how to get stuff done. You know, we love our president, Elizabeth Young, who's done so much to hold this organization together this year.
Oh, yeah, despite his best efforts as well. I mean, the reason the organization keeps falling apart is the scandals that he brings with it.
And we also love Jeddah, and nobody messes with Jeddah. Let me just put it that way. Jeddah's awesome, and she's also done so much to hold this organization together. And we're also very proud to have the top communist woman in Britain joining us today. So,
Oh, the turf. Yeah, I mean, listen to this bullshit. The top communist woman in Britain. I mean, she works with fucking George Galloway, and she's in easily of the relatively well-known Marxist-Leninist sects. It's easily the smallest, most universally derided, and the most reactionary. Well, then again, that might be. I mean, there is also the CPB in addition to CPGBML. And they're pretty fucking reactionary. So that's actually a close run thing, thinking about it. But yeah.
oh,
And she's big into biological determinism.
we'll be hearing from her tomorrow. I'm very excited for her presentation about the fight in the global communist movement. But women are so much better than men. Men have problems. We do.
Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the sample that we're going from right now, I really can't see how I could disagree.
Okay? And especially now, it's a very hard time to be a young man. We talk about, I mean, obviously the oppression of women, sexual assault.
Well, yeah, I mean, that stuff, okay, take it as read. But, yeah, actually, it's really just hard for the guys. I mean, look at... Is he gonna just do another one of these blaming the left on for Andrew Tate things or something like that? Is that where this is going?
And battery and all the things that women go through, I mean, doesn't compare, but this is a hard time to be a young man also. And, I see so many young men out there, and it's like every day they feel like they're on trial, right? And they're desperate to prove themselves because there's so much judgment poured on young men right now. Why don't you have a good paying job, that pays for everything? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have a house? So many young men, they've been told all their lives that they have all this...
Surely if anyone gets judged for not being married, it would overwhelmingly be women.
...obligation. And then the society around them is crumbling, and they don't find a place in it. And I meet so many young men, and we are an overwhelmingly male organization.
This does not surprise me.
We are. I mean, there's no way to deny that. Look at this room,
Yeah, total sausage fest, am I right?
We're an overwhelmingly male organization, and I love all the men here. And I want all the men here to know that...
It's interesting that when he was talking about examples of great women in the organization, he specifically did not mention Lily Goldklang, who is sort of his alibi for transphobia. Well, and his alibi for anti-Semitism. She kind of does double duty there. I mean, actually, I kind of have to wonder if she's possibly reconsidering her position as well, given the just really vile shit that he piled on in a segment he called Woke Trans Hysteria. You see, which was all about making fun of trans people for being a little bit, apprehensive about laws that basically ban trans people from existing and getting healthcare and other important life activities. And he thought that was fucking hilarious. And he did a long-ass bit on it, too. I mean, it was, possibly the vilest thing I've ever seen him do. And that's really something. I mean, maybe I kind of hope she decides to leave and spill the tea, personally.
You're not on trial in CPI. No one's judging you. No.
Well, I am,
No one
but...
is judging you here in this organization. We're happy to have you here, and we love you. We love you, and we support you, and we want you to make
no
the
matter
best
how much you
contribution
suck.
ever make, and we want to empower you to make that contribution. That's what we want to do. And I say that because I want you to let your guard down.
Of course he wants you to let your guard down. He's trying to manipulate you.
I want you to just let your guard down and give yourself to this, because it's hard. In a world where everyone seems to be attacking you, where no one seems to ever give you a break, where everyone seems to be judging you and rating you.
All I want you to do is pay me rent for a shitty hotel room in Jersey City and sell my crappy merch every day, door to door.
I want you to take a deep breath and say, this is the group I'm in. I'm committed to it. I want you to go all in. And I want you to let your guard down. I want you to do your best.
Okay, this is... That is an impressive manipulation we're watching here. This is actually, I am kind of impressed. This is like the first time I've really seen him where somebody could actually fall for him.
And it's hard. It's hard to trust in these kinds of times.
Especially, I mean, a guy like Caleb Maupin, that's really hard to trust. It is a true trust challenge. I mean, the people in that organization, they are like the fucking world champions of trust. Because they've seen all the shit that he gets up to. They've listened to all the complete nonsense that comes out of his mouth, and they still somehow trust him.
Social media is so good at making everyone terrified of everyone else. Everyone's afraid. Everyone feels like they're being judged.
This is the guy who claims that everybody except his cult is a CIA psyop.
Put on trial every single minute. I want CPI to be a place where people don't feel like that's the case. I want CPI to be a place where people feel like they are free to be who they are and they can let their guard down. Because it's hard. It is so hard in these times. So absolutely hard.
Yeah. What about women? How are women meant to feel? I mean, when you're not trying to manipulate them into sex work.
And I'll say this. I know why Maduro is still in power. You know,
Well, I mean, that's easy. The far right in Venezuela is probably the most incompetent group of assholes in all of South America. They are constantly at each other's throats. They don't know their asses from their elbows. And they are mostly just grifters, like Guaido. All he's really done with his fake ass designated president position that was gifted to him by Mike Pence, the guy who, Democrats is telling us is a guy who stands up for democracy, because he jumped ship at the very last possible minute from the Donald Trump Titanic. I mean, all he's done is siphon off huge amounts of money from the overseas assets of Venezuela to himself and his friends. That's all he's done. That's why Maduro is still in power, despite the fact that he's actually pretty fucking incompetent as well. And like a lot of people who who are sort of part of the electoral left, he has no real repertoire for how to deal with the inevitable fight back of capital, than to just sort of knuckle under.
This country, Maduro was the leader of Venezuela, and the United States, especially right after Chavez died, they did everything to take Maduro out of power. I know why Maduro is still in power. I know why the United Socialist Party hasn't been defeated. Because when I went to Venezuela in 2015, when the opposition in Venezuela had a sweep and won the elections, after that election, they took us to a commune in central Caracas.
It's worth noting that actually, the commune movement, which is one of the really cool things going on in Venezuela, to be clear, the line that they have used in all these years of threatened coups against Maduro, against Chavez, has basically been, particularly against Maduro, extremely critical. And like the last time there was a serious threat against the elected government what they basically said was, look, if anyone's going to overthrow Maduro, it's going to be the Venezuelan working class or nobody. Yeah, was essentially the line they said. Described him as a representative of false socialism. Which, I mean, yes, actually. I mean, in his better moments, he's a social democrat. He's in an unenviable fucking position in a lot of ways. But his instincts are just sock dem.
And in central Caracas, we sat down with a woman.
Wow, they sat down with a woman. He's fascinated by the fact that a woman would sit down with him. I'm surprised too.
1 years old, was wearing army pants, and I can guarantee you she knew her way around an AK-47. I can guarantee you that. And she said to us,
Well, that how are you gonna guarantee that she's wearing camouflage trousers? I mean, I think that a lot of people own a pair of those who've never even held a weapon.
they will never come back. And she told us her life story. She'd been a homeless young woman on the streets of Caracas, didn't even speak Spanish, only spoke indigenous languages. She'd been an orphan, and there was a priest who was a socialist, a liberation theology priest, who took her in. And she grew up in an orphanage run by this liberal...
And folks, in the spirit of taking people in, I hope you're being taken in right now.
Liberation theology priest. And Hugo Chavez was the president, and they watched him on TV, and he taught them about Marxism, and he read them what is to be done on television, and she learned about socialism and revolution, and she told me, she said, I'm a communist, but I'm also a Christian. And she said, I believe God put me on this earth to die for communism. That is what I intend to do. They will never come back. That's what she told me.
Wow, that wasn't much applause for a really fucking passionate pronouncement there. I guess communism maybe isn't all that popular in the CPI, which very carefully avoids actually using the word in its name.
And I also know why the Islamic Republic of Iran is not going to fail. Because I've been there, and I had the...
Well, I mean, if he's been there, it can't fail.
Opportunity of being one of the only Americans, or not one of the only, but one of the few Americans to ever be in the presence of Iran's supreme leader, which is quite an experience.
And like, okay, so you talk to politicians. You talk to fucking politicians. Did you talk to any communists in Iran? I mean, admittedly, it's kind of hard to find them. A lot of them are living as refugees in Europe, actually. But as
it was the supreme leader of Iran. He speaks every year on the anniversary of the death of Imam Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic. And I was in this auditorium with 20,000 people, and he walks out, and he can only...
So he was in an auditorium with 20,000 people. See, it sounded like they were having a nice little sit down together, and now he's in an auditorium with 20,000 people. That's a bit of a change there. It's a bit like the way he describes his, in his fucking cartoon, his CV cartoon, he presents his, the speech he gave at Occupy as this rousing thing that there was an audience for, and then when you actually look at the video of the speech he gave during Occupy, nobody was listening. He was just sort of standing around the street with a megaphone, and people were checking their fucking smartphones.
He used one of his arms because of a bombing, and he puts his arm up, and that room just goes crazy. They just go crazy, crying and screaming, and the men...
Why don't you people do that, folks? Folks, that's how you're supposed to respond to a supreme leader. Why can't I get any respect?
Extend their hands, and they say, the blood in my vessels belongs to the supreme leader. The blood in my vessels belongs to the supreme leader.
Yeah, isn't that... I mean... he's so telling on himself. This is clearly what the kind of mentality he would really like to have in his followers.
And when I was in downtown,
it's all very communist, obviously.
I was talking to people who work in the media in Iran. I was talking to wealthier folks who support the revolution. But when I was in that,
guys, talking to wealthier folks, how about some working class people? How about possibly some communists? Since you bill your travels as some sort of communist heroism.
Auditorium, in that mausoleum of Khomeini with 20,000 other people. I was talking...
Yeah, but, I gotta say, though, that auditorium, as much as it was a mausoleum, it's not nowhere near the mausoleum that we have when I speak to the CPI. Isn't that right, folks? This is the true mausoleum.
Talking to the working class of Iran. I was talking to people who wouldn't have running water and electricity if it weren't for the Islamic Revolution. That's what I was talking about. And there's a reason they were screaming in adoration for Khamenei, the supreme leader, because he was the one who could stand for them against the rich and powerful. He was their champion, to stand with the oppressed.
Then why are they still rich and powerful?
That's what they talk about. It's part of the Shia revolutionary tradition. And that was real politics. That wasn't leftism. That wasn't LARPing. That wasn't...
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, so, yeah, it wasn't leftism, certainly. I mean, it's interesting that, I mean, real politics, that's just the English for realpolitik. I mean, which is to say, completely unprincipled bullshit.
Internet debating. That was real politics, that auditorium of 20,000 people.
No, it fucking isn't. That's fucking pageantry. It's what you try to do with that bullshit with your flag ceremony. Don't really pull off because you're in a shitty hotel room someplace.
I was standing there, I was wearing my suit, no ties, because in Iran you don't wear a tie, but I was wearing a suit, and I'm standing there with a lot of Chinese diplomats from African countries, and we're standing there, and he's making different remarks about different things, and
different remarks about you. What I love is that you could just sort of really feel like you were there.
The time that I was there, in Iran there was a controversy about whether or not to call America the Great Satan. And some people were saying, well, maybe we should stop calling America the Great Satan. I was standing there as the only American in an auditorium of 20,000 people where the Supreme Leader stated his position on the issue. And he said, even though we signed a nuclear deal with the United States...
Yeah, which, I mean, given the nature of that deal, really does not negate the status of the U.S. as Great Satan, since the whole premise was to actually, I mean, that deal, there's so much debate about it that is just such nonsense. Because, in the political sphere, it's all, okay, was the deal good, was the deal not good? But the idea, for the U.S. But nobody talks about the fact that what the deal was is that the U.S. lied their asses off, claiming that Iran had some sort of nuclear weapons program. Their own intelligence people, according to their own national intelligence estimate, says they don't have anything of the sort, though it's really kind of amazing that they wouldn't, because, I mean, just look at the people they're up against. You'd kind of want to have some kind of insurance policy. But anyway... So the U.S. Uses this as a justification for just murderous economic warfare against Iran, and then Obama says, "Okay, well, we will if you agree to actually screw up your fucking nuclear energy program, which is the only thing that they verifiably have. Then we will allow you not to starve quite as much." I mean, it's that deal. We should never. I mean, nobody should have fucking celebrated that. That was not. I mean, it's celebrating the U.S. as this big triumph of diplomacy, but it's really just they held a gun to some people's head and they went along with what they were, and they did what they were told.
We do consider America to be the Great Satan, but we don't consider the American people to be the Great Satan. We mean the system of imperialism, the system of war and death and destruction. That's what we consider to be the Great Satan. And we will never compromise on that. And though we may negotiate, we will never surrender to the Great Satan. And then I was the only American in an auditorium of 20,000 people.
Did you bring the fucking American flag that you like to wave around all the time now?
Who began chanting, "Death to America," and pumping their fists like this, "Death to America, death to America." And tears rolled down my face.
What is this, cataract vision?
It is an experience I will never forget for the rest of my life. To stand there, and I said death to America, burned American flags as a leftist before, but in that moment, everything meant something different to me, because I was with those people. I was with them against the
And that's why you decided to create a fucking patriotic socialist organization where you wave around the fucking flag that is probably the most burnt flag on the planet.
Imperialists.
For understandable reasons.
But I also knew that so many of the American people would have something to gain from destroying not America as we know it, but the America of the bankers and the billionaires and the war hawks and the...
That is America as we know it, though.
Monopolists. And there's millions of Americans who would be in that room with me if they knew the truth. If they knew the truth, they'd be in that room with me.
Jesus, okay, I mean, it is just really quite fascinating to watch him mature as a manipulator of very small masses. Like, this move is actually, this is a new thing for him to actually try to reach a fever pitch. And the reason he can't pull it off is because he's just so fucking boring. He's completely unable to keep a consistent narrative, and the level of dramatic tension is roughly on the level of the instructions to a Form 1040. I mean, look at this fucking polite golf clap.
And that we have a responsibility to take this seriously. We have a responsibility to try and communicate this in a way that'll win people over. We have a responsibility to not burn the American flag, but to wave the American flag. We have a responsibility to not advocate death, destruction, and chaos, but a 4-point economic plan that would improve people's lives. This is
everybody's fucking gaga for 4-point economic plans.
Game. This isn't a joke. This is serious.
You're off your mark. You're out of frame, Caleb.
And it is our job to do the best that we can do here in the center of the empire, to get working people to understand who their real enemy is and why imperialism is the enemy of all humanity.
That's the imperialism that it's worth remembering he was just celebrating a few minutes before this, in the form of legendary investor Jim Rogers salivating over the theoretical prospect of being able to buy up the economy of the DPRK.
That is what our responsibility is. It's not a joke. And I couldn't unsee what I saw in that room. And that was the beginning of my trip out of the Workers' World Party. The day I walked out of that room was the day I was beginning to leave the Workers' World Party.
I thought that he got kicked out of the Workers' World Party. I thought the day he walked out of that room is the day when the Workers' World Party had decided he was too dodgy even for them.
Because I couldn't unlearn it. And then when I went back to the United States and went to leftist protests, something was off. I felt sick to my stomach. I was frustrated. I was like, guys, people are losing their homes and jobs in Ohio. This is not a joke. Can we mature? Can we take this seriously? It's not about
what is he, Tony Blair now?
Doing what's trendy and hip. It's about actually trying to win. And I saw that something was off.
These are the exact moves that people like to use when they shift over into like Democratic Party politics. Like, every ex-radical who's become a Democratic Party politician has some version of this fucking speech.
And then Donald Trump ran for president. And I saw Donald Trump saying a lot of things that
Well, that's true. That man did say a lot of things.
I agreed with, about the wars and about the elite. And I saw
the elite.
A left that didn't want to engage with these people.
That didn't want to engage with a bunch of white nationalists. I wonder why.
All racist. They're all, and just...
Well, yes, they are. They are, though.
Dismissed. Basket of deplorables, like Hillary Clinton said.
Except that nobody likes Hillary. I mean, is he going to do this thing where he pretends that anyone to the left of him also loves Hillary Clinton? Because, of course, like, none of the people he's attacking. Everybody fucking hates Hillary Clinton. That is one of the political universals. It's like hating Joe Biden. Right-wingers think that they invented that shit. But, I mean, the fact is they're newcomers.
And I said, we got to do something about this. CPI is a result. CPI is a result.
The Creepy Pricks International.
Of my revelations.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that they're on the second, they're on CPI Mark II is the result of his revelations. Can't argue with that.
Nationally, and my understanding and my frustration and my desire to take this seriously. And that's why CPI is still here. And that's why I will continue to do this. I won't say who, but I got multiple messages that really all traced back to one particular leftist personality who said to me, Caleb, you should stop organizing.
And, okay. See, I'm surprised to hear that anyone would even believe that he is organizing. I wouldn't call this organizing. This is, I mean, he's just rolling out a fucking snake oil sale.
You should stop organizing. Just be a social media commentator. And I heard that and I said, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, of course you don't know what that means. Why would you know what organizing is? You've never fucking done it.
And I said to the person, honestly, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I believe you.
For me, being a communist is about building an organization.
Exactly, and you don't know what that means.
It is about building a group. It is about getting things done. If I was just a writer, or just a speaker, or just a commentator on the internet, maybe I'd comment on science fiction novels. Maybe I'd comment on basketball.
He's actually commented on Bram Stoker's Dracula. He did a whole thing about the sexual politics of Bram Stoker's Dracula. We looked at it on stream.
Or football. But if I'm talking about communism, I'm doing it because I want to change the world. I'm doing it because I want to build an organization. I read the literature I read communist literature, William Z. Foster, Gus Hall. It's all about building an organization.
Hey, Mask, you familiar with, okay, Gus, I know William Z. Foster, but Gus Hall? General Secretary of the Communist Party USA, perennial candidate for the President of the United States, Communist Party nominee in 72, 76, 80, and 84. He translated in his head his stop organizing with. He probably said something like more along the lines of "Go away, you're a sex pest. Nobody likes you." Yeah, okay, entirely plausible interpretation. Well, I think so.
It's not about getting points on social media. It's not about having the best edgy take that everyone retweets. It's about
like the time that you wrote an entire book that was nothing but attacking people for criticizing you on social media and claiming they were all a psyop.
About actually building an organization. That is the point. Karl Marx said that philosophers have long sought to analyze the world. The point, however, is to change it.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Study has shown that using the preferred pronouns of trans people.
Okay, let me see. This is Caleb Maupin be freaking out at the idea. Okay, so let's see what we could do. We've got Mike Rowe schools Fox on how to earn big money. Arvo custa. Arvo means value. Arvo teoria. Value theory. There's Unwoke Incorporated by PragerU. How to Identify a Nazi YouTuber. Written by a Nazi YouTuber, Xander Hall. Or Matt Walsh. Okay, this is Vosh. Well, Matt Walsh epically fails in his gotcha expose about trans people. Yeah. And actually in the original the word point is not used. That's just the best way. That's just the snappiest way to translate it into English. I once remarked in a piece that I wrote several years ago about the lack of nur verschieden interpretiert, es kommt aber darauf an, sie zu verändern. Yeah, exactly. Es kommt darauf an, means literally it's like, that is the decisive thing. Darauf ankommen. So, it is not a literal translation, but I agree with the people who translate it that way. I think that's the best way to do it. I remarked that, there's all this stuff about, you have all these organizations, all these sort of authoritarian cults that will describe anything that involves like confrontational, direct action, community defense, anything like that as just adventurism. And, basically anything that involves actually doing anything as adventurism. And I remarked, actually that a lot of these groups were, took the work of a man who said, the point is to change it. And, so who said the philosophers have hitherto only interpreted the world various ways, the point is to change it, and decided to just spend their entire lives interpreting him badly. Okay, so we could watch Vosh on Matt Walsh. We could watch Xander Hole on how to identify a Nazi YouTuber. Unwoke Inc. Or there's Dennis Prager asking the question everybody wanted him to ask. Namely, Pride Month. Why do we do this? Because everyone knows, I mean, Dennis Prager is really big into Pride. I mean, that guy, that's all he does is Pride Month. Fuck it, let's do it. Let's find out. Let's hear. It is, after all, Pride Month. Let's go. I'm pumped. I want to hear why we do this. Why?
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager with Mr. Tubbs. Some of you may not know Mr. Tubbs. He's our...
It must absolutely pain him to spell that dog's name with a Z. Some social media consultant told him that had better SEO, that seemed cooler. You know, there's no way that he just on his own decided to spell it that way.
Our newest edition. He too is a bulldog. Nothing could replace Otto, but Mr. Tubbs is a winner. We got the name actually from the people who bred him in Pennsylvania in Mennonite country. It was hard to
from a puppy mill.
Find, and we found Mr. Tubbs. They gave him the name because his dad was Mr. Chubbs. And we fell in love with the name, Mr. Tubbs. So here he is, and hopefully you will be seeing him next to me for many, many years at Fireside Chats.
Oh, well, unless he starts to pay attention to what you're saying and just buggers off. Personally, I just hope that he spends these Fireside Chats licking his balls so that Dennis has to keep on recording them over and over again.
This is chat number 291. We are 300 minus 9.
Wow, that's true. This is the sort of deep theoretical understanding of concepts that you can only get from Prager University. 291 is 300 minus 9. Wow.
I think that's a big deal, you know? I'm very excited about that.
So
today
excited.
begins LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. Is that right? Pride Month? Oh, wow, a whole month.
Yeah, fuck you.
So a few words about this. I don't understand. No, I take that back.
No. Let's go with that because it's almost certainly true.
It's actually not a meaningful phrase. That's better. I do understand why it's being done.
Okay, it's not a meaningful phrase. This will be interesting because you know he's going to contradict himself very soon.
And I'll explain my explanation momentarily.
He'll explain his explanation to us. Good.
But let me talk to you for a moment about
here.
the notion of group pride. What does that mean?
Well, you just said it didn't mean anything.
And it's never been clear to me. I wrote a column on this. I hope
maybe you're not the person to be giving a fireside chat on the subject. Why not get somebody on who knows?
You'll look it up. I wrote it last week, and it's available on my website. And
that is about the best thing you can say about any of his columns. They are available on his website.
Many others, Daily Wire, American Greatness.
Yes, all the fucking cesspits the internet has.
J Media, Town Hall, and it's my weekly column, and I wrote it about this notion. So
Town Hall. That's on David Horowitz's horrible website. I can't help remembering somebody asked Noam Chomsky about David Horowitz at one point, right around the beginning of David Horowitz's white supremacist arc. Said, "What do you think of David Horowitz and all this right wing shit he's getting into?" And Chomsky said, "Yeah, I never listened to him when he was a Stalinist. I don't see any reason to change that decision now." And I always rather like that.
I tell the story that when I was bar mitzvah. So, meaning, of course, when I was 13, I got a gift. One of the gifts was, or I got many gifts. One of the gifts was a book called something to the effect, Great Jews in Sports. And I also Remember this, which is very interesting given how deeply Jewish my upbringing was. I went to religious Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, it's every time he starts doing one of his fucking theological Judeo-Christian crossover videos, I mean, you can hear the ancestors fucking crying.
School every day called a yeshiva. I went to a Jewish camp. My family was Jewish. My friends were Jewish. And I lived in a Jewish Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. But I didn't relate to the book. I thought, what difference does it make to me whether there were great Jews in sports? And that's an odd reaction because obviously the person who gave it to me thought it would be a meaningful gift.
Well, I don't know, maybe it's something to do with dispelling the stereotype that, I mean, a stereotype that it's worth noting Zionist ideology is actually very big into promoting. That that Jewish men, particularly Jewish men who have not redeemed themselves by joining the colonial enterprise in Palestine, are weak and athletically basically non-existent. I think that might be part of why the book existed, and I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot that you can say about, there's a limit to these sorts of exercises, but dispelling a actually rather harmful stereotype isn't a horrible thing.
But I realized later that I never had
sitting
any
on his hands.
groupthink. I believed in the great American ideal of the individual is sacrosanct.
Yeah, anytime you hear somebody start talking about how they're against groupthink and they're their own fucking individual, you know somebody else is writing their script.
The group is important, but that I don't believe in groupthink. Let me make something clear. There are only two groups, the decent and the indecent.
Well, okay, so if you'd gotten a book called Great Indecent People in Sports, would you have felt better about that? Would that have
I don't divide the world between straight and gay, between Jew and non-Jew, between American and non-American.
Well, I mean, except in all those fucking videos about the need, about how even a walled border patrolled by people with automatic rifles is an open border and needs to be secured further. You kind of divide between American and non-American there, don't you?
Between black and white,
I think he's. I'm guessing. Yeah, he's so ecumenical. I'm guessing he's one of those people who is not confident about body language. I'm guessing that his impulse is probably to sort of really have. Yes, Dennis, that's right. To have very animated hands. And he knows that doesn't work in all fucking time zones, and he's sort of ashamed of it somehow, and so he sits on his hands. That would be my guess.
I only divide it between the decent and the indecent, and it's not my phrase. A Jew who went through the Holocaust and
had much more worthwhile things. He's talking about Viktor Frankl. And let me just say, it's actually, like, speaking of fucking ancestors crying, Frankl is somebody who actually had a whole lot of extremely worthwhile things to say, unlike this douchebag.
Who was, of course, since passed. Of course, I say because the Holocaust was a long time ago.
It wasn't really, though. I mean, anything where there are people who are, like, tangentially connected to it, I mean, it's convenient to some people to treat it like it was ancient history, but there are people who still had some tangential connection to the experience who are alive right now. So, that's not a long time ago. If grandparents of people alive today were involved in on one end of it or the other, that's something that's fairly recent. But it's convenient, especially if, like Dennis Prager, you are promoting the idea that Jews really ought to ally themselves with vicious far-right anti-Semites to act like it's ancient history.
name was Viktor Frankl, Frankl. He wrote a book
He misspelled the name in his chapter titles. He had it
about his experiences in a Nazi concentration camp.
Specifically
he was an
Auschwitz.
Austrian Jewish psychoanalyst.
Yeah, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was the founder of logotherapy. A really worthwhile writer, I have to say.
He wrote a book
Much
that is
more
one
than
of
this
the 10
dickhead.
books that most, in fact, one of the 5 books. After the Bible, it's up there with the book that has most influenced me. It's a
I
very
mean,
short-
even the fact that, that he makes a point of specifically saying the Bible. I mean, this guy is defensively Jewish he'll talk about how fucking Jewish his upbringing was, but he's so up the ass of fucking fundamentalist Christians who actually kind of want to get rid of Jews that he actually avoids he knows that his audience skews anti-Semitic, and so he avoids actually. Somebody who went to yeshiva knows that the book that you are studying is not called the Bible. It's because that includes a whole bunch of stuff that isn't included. It's called the Torah, the Mishnah, the fucking Talmud, which is actually, I have to say, it's a very in some parts a very entertaining read, much more than you would expect, because it is basically sort of rabbi shitposting. On a certain level, but from over 2,000 years ago. Actually, probably longer than that. But see, he doesn't want to alienate people who immediately start getting their fucking sharpening their knives when they hear about Talmud, which he undoubtedly studied at fucking yeshiva. So he says the Bible, because it just makes the anti-Semites in his audience more comfortable.
Short book. I read it in high school, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a very famous book. It's a classic. Relatives
It is
of his,
more worthwhile than anything this guy's ever said.
I think his beloved wife, was murdered by the Nazis. And he was asked after the war the following question. Do you hate the German race? That's the way they put it in those days. Today they would say the Germans or the German nation.
And actually, I wonder if that's a translation thing. Depending on who asked him, they might have said das deutsche Volk. And the thing about Volk is that it can be used, quite notoriously by the Nazis. And their ideological forerunners in the Romantic nationalist movement as a racializing term, but it can also be used as more of a sort of liberal civic nationalist term, and this makes it a real fucker to translate, which is why a lot of translators don't bother and they just italicize the word Volk.
Do you hate the German race? And his answer in his book was no. There are only 2 races, the decent and the indecent. If I had to give a motto of my life, that is my motto.
Then how the fuck did you end up here? If that's your motto, and you got your motto from somebody who survived some of the worst the far right has thus far dished out, then how the hell did you end up in creating a propaganda outlet that is meant to sort of whitewash the people who do that kind of thing? And I think we all know the answer rhymes with funny.
That is how I divide the world. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're gay.
Oh, he's colorblind. This is the kind of innovative, philosophical insight that you can only get at PragerU. He's colorblind.
I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're a Jew. I don't care.
He kind of cares if you're a Muslim, which is why he doesn't say that. And why he's got repeated videos, actually, that are all about inciting violence against Muslims.
About anything. Like I care about, are you a good person? By the way, it's not easy to be a good person. That's it's the greatest achievement you can acquire.
He speaks from zero experience.
I wish there was a goodness pride month in America.
You'd be pissed off about that because you wouldn't be invited.
We have all these groups, but what is the pride? I don't even understand it.
Well, maybe maybe you should have somebody on who does. Maybe enlighten your audience rather than stand here like a less funny Andy Rooney, sort of going, I don't understand anything that's going on here. Like, yeah, well, okay, that's why you just shut the fuck up. I mean, let us just watch your dog. Your dog is much more worthwhile.
Let us say,
Also, it's June. What are you doing with a fucking fire going? How... Where are you that in June you've got the fire going?
hey, you're black. You have black pride, but you didn't do anything. You were born black. You have white pride, of course.
Well, yes, a lot of your best friends do, in fact.
You have white pride, you're considered evil.
I wonder why that is, Dennis. Maybe your friend, your idol Viktor Frankl could enlighten us on that one.
But whatever your group, I don't, let's say you're gay. What is the pride?
Maybe the fact that we stand up and are honest about who we are, and refuse to hide, despite the fact that the world is full of people like you, and you have a platform, and we have to fucking and every day we have to keep that in mind and deal with it. Maybe that's why. Maybe there are special struggles involved with Jesus.
I mean, answer me in a rational manner.
Well, you ask the question in a fucking rational manner.
The whole point of gay liberation is...
Oh, I can't wait. Now we get to hear the whole point of gay liberation.
Was that a person doesn't really have a choice. Okay,
No, that wasn't the fucking point of gay liberation. The point of gay liberation is that it doesn't fucking matter whether we do have a choice or we don't have a choice, because we should actually simply be allowed to get on with it.
So I bought that. I understand that. So how could you have pride in something you didn't choose?
Well, let's try this. Maybe people have to choose how open they are about it in an often hostile society. And maybe each of those choices brings with it certain struggles that a guy like you doesn't necessarily know anything about.
It's like, so I'm tall. I'm 6'4". Do I have tall pride? No.
No, because tell me when you were at any point made to feel marginalized in society for being 6'4".
No, I did nothing to earn it. That's my genetic makeup, is to be tall. I'm not proud of it.
Well, yeah. So what?
It's the whole thing. It must mean something else, and
Yeah, maybe it does mean something else. He's got that one right. It clearly does mean something else, because what he's saying makes no fucking sense. And he already started this talk by saying he doesn't understand anything about this. Like, why is anyone still listening at this point, actually? Except to just find out what nonsense is about to come out.
Tell you what it means. The real meaning of all of this is that the society must celebrate lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgendered and queer, etc.
Well, what would be wrong with that?
Not just tolerate.
I mean, you celebrate fucking cis-hetero white motherfuckers. So, yeah. I mean, admittedly, he does have a point. It feels wonderful to be tolerated. I mean, fucking Tom Lehrer wrote a whole song about how lovely the idea of tolerance is. You can tolerate them if you try. Yeah, I mean, admittedly, that is a wonderful feeling to be tolerated. It is a feeling that Dennis Prager is not getting from me right now, because I really have to. He's kind of getting on my last nerve at this moment. But yeah, he has a point there. Why shouldn't we just accept being kind of tolerated and put up with in a society that celebrates people who are functionally who are no better or worse than us, but just fuck people that are more conventional.
That's the liberal idea. The left-wing idea is you must celebrate. But
No. The left wing the liberal idea is you must celebrate. You must celebrate. Like maybe I mean that's Jesus Christ. There's so much to fucking unpack here, because it's not you must celebrate. It's like there is something fucking to celebrate.
I don't celebrate. I don't.
Although I have to say, there's less right now than at any time in my life. I think it's just. I mean, he's saying this in the midst of a time when his political allies throughout the U.S. in an area covering nearly 70% of the continental United States are literally making it legally impossible to exist as a trans person. Like, I mean, so maybe I kind of agree. This is not something to celebrate. This is not a situation where we can really have an unallied celebration, because to me, celebrations are fucking victories, and the victory in this case has yet to be won. But he doesn't get to be the one to have any opinions
celebrate
on this shit.
Men who transition to.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if Dennis Prager showed up in a fucking queer lesbian bar that I was at to say that he says, I get it now. I celebrate you. I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, man. Get the hell out of here.
To women or women who transition to men. I accept the fact that they wish to do so.
Well, no, you don't. You've got tons of videos trying to delegitimize the idea of trans people existing.
I understand that. I will treat them as another creature.
Yeah, that's about right. He'll treat trans people as creatures. Yeah, even his fucking dog isn't buying this crap. Look his dog is his dog's laughing at him now. He knows that. That's bullshit, Daddy, and you know it.
Wow. I think he needs another Chewy. Oh, no, he doesn't. He's
just expressing his opinion here.
Or Mr. Tubbs.
You're into free speech, aren't you? This is Mr. Tubbs expressing his opinion of what you just said.
Anyway, also he could be reacting to what I said. There's no.
Yeah, exactly. I think he is. I think that it was a bit much even for him.
Way of really knowing.
Oh, I just hope he does a nice big shit right there.
Sound effects, I must say.
It's the most edifying thing in this entire.
Yes, sir.
He's probably overheating because it's fucking June and he's right in front of a fire. Just because of this ridiculous conceit of a fireside chat, which he's plagiarizing off of a president whose, fucking socio-political life's work he is paid to promote the dismantling of. I mean, surely, if he wants to be consistent, but of course, all of it is, on a certain level, is just fucking boomer-ass nostalgia. But, I mean, surely he should be looking for, whatever Wendell Willkie had instead of fucking fireside chats. Since it's not like he has particular affection for the New Deal.
Okay, don't eat it so fast and you won't choke. All right. What is going on here is, and it's
Old man yells at cloud.
Imposing on society that you must celebrate all of these things.
Wow, it must really feel really rough to have something imposed on you. I wonder if LGBT people have had that experience.
There's a big difference between treating people decently, which is a moral demand. I totally assent to it.
Well, that's big of you.
but I'm not prepared to celebrate it. I think it's a tragedy if you're a male who thinks you're a female,
Why is it a tragedy?
or you're a female who thinks you're a male. It's a tragedy.
What's the tragedy? I mean, other than the way people like this prick treat trans people, what's the tragedy? You know, let trans people just fucking get on with it, and there's no need for any kind of tragedies.
Doesn't mean we don't love you. It doesn't.
Yes, it fucking does. Yes, that's exactly what it means. And, like, you don't get to say, I believe that we should treat you decently, but I'm not going to celebrate that you exist, but that doesn't mean I don't love you.
Doesn't mean we mistreat you. But
Hello, Phoenix.
I don't
Well, you are kind of mistreating us.
celebrate it.
You've made that clear. You've said that you don't celebrate it something like 20 times already. I think the one takeaway, other than that even his dog is having trouble stomaching this, is that he doesn't celebrate it. My suspicions that he doesn't celebrate it were also aroused by the fact that the first topic here on the screen says this is not something to celebrate. So I thought maybe he doesn't celebrate it.
Who would deny that it is best to be comfortable
Well, you seem to, because you just said it was a tragedy.
with the sex that you are?
Well, again, the problem here is that you're not comfortable with the fucking sex that they are.
I mean,
This is that meme. It's like, I consent. I don't. Dennis Prager, I don't consent.
we're being asked to affirm something that isn't true.
If that's your problem, I don't actually see what the difficulty is, because you've built an entire social media presence around affirming things that aren't true.
If you're a male, you're a male. If you identify as a female and you present as a female, you look like a female, you have a female name, you dress like a female, and you don't have a beard, you present female, then I'm assuming you're a female, and I'll call you ma'am if you're my waitress.
Wow, this is just the really, truly, a National Brotherhood Week special. This Dennis Prager promises he will do the absolute fucking bare minimum of human decency for any group, from any member of any group of people whose existence he's uncomfortable with.
I understand that.
No, you don't. You clearly don't.
But I'm not going to celebrate it.
You already said that. You've said that like fucking 30 times now. We got that. You don't celebrate the existence of trans people or LGBT people more generally, but you think that the trans people and LGBT people more generally ought to be treated decently. Definition yet to arrive. See, I mostly just pack using suitcases. I like the ones with the big zippers because I always overpack.
Especially with young people. You're 8 years old and you say you're the other sex. You're 12 years old, you say you're the other sex. You're
So what?
17 or 18 and you have
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't go away like that.
your breasts cut off because you think you're a boy, and I'm supposed to celebrate that?
No, you're supposed to just get the fuck out of the way. Like, nobody's asking you to come to the fucking post-op recovery party of anybody. I think that your absence is truly the greatest gift you could give.
We're supposed to have a pride day for your breasts having been removed?
Well, yeah, obviously that's obviously what it's all about. It's breasts having been removed pride. There's absolutely nothing else that it could possibly be about. It's just breasts having been removed pride. So maybe it's anti. No, wait a sec. They're actually it's full of people who are quite happy to have breasts as well. Isn't that interesting? Maybe it's about being your fucking self, which is something that you. I mean, you can't even allow yourself to actually gesture as it comes naturally to you, Dennis. Sitting on your fucking hands like a. Though, like the Stasi made prisoners do, so that they could get samples of their sweat to give to the dogs. Fucking. Oh, why? Oh, it's never too late for dad jokes. Anything to distract me from the agony of fucking. He's still got 3 more things to go through on this fucking fireside twat.
So I'm sorry, I don't join the Pride Month.
You made that fucking clear. Then why did? But wait a second. Why is the title of this video? Why do we do this? When your whole point is that you don't. Maybe instead you could have just asked people who do it why they do it. And that would be really interesting for your audience because it would be something they've never fucking heard before because they're fucking siloed off in this right-wing bullshitosphere.
By the way, I don't want any Pride Months.
And it's a really creepily sexual fetishization as well. I mean, you have that Alison Bailey, for example, the fucking barrister in Britain, who's one of the sort of token lesbians over at the so-called LGBA, the LGB Alliance, who's given these creepy ass speeches about how, you know, trans boys' chests are being removed despite never having known a lover's caress, and it's like you're thinking entirely too hard about other people's children's fucking erogenous zones, Allison. Maybe you should actually see something about that fucking Allison. Yeah.
I don't want a Jewish Pride Month. I don't want a Black Pride Month. I don't want a Hispanic Pride Month. I don't believe in it.
You've made that point already.
Said the only division that matters is the character division.
Yes, okay. So, what about an indecent people Pride Month? Since that's the distinction that you recognize as decent and indecent, and you very clearly you've joined Team Indecent here.
Are you decent or indecent?
I'm indecent, but give me 5 minutes and then you can come in. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole idea is that these are people who are like obsessed with the belief that other people's bodies somehow are theirs to decide about.
But there is no moral quality to this. And by the way, it's not even true.
What isn't true?
Those who celebrate blacks for Black Pride Month or whatever, or Black History Month, they don't celebrate black conservatives.
Yeah, because they suck. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, if you ask Jews who we celebrate, say, when we're, you know, at Warsaw Ghetto Uprising commemoration season, we aren't generally, for the most part, celebrating Stella Goldschlag, the fucking collaborator in Berlin who, in exchange for saving her own skin, turned in huge numbers of Jews who were living in hiding in the last couple of years of the war. Yeah, that's the thing. People don't generally celebrate people they don't like. I mean, I hate to just take something whole cloth from fucking from yeah, celebrate fucking Clarence Thomas. Yeah, I mean the traditional way to celebrate that is people gift each other a Coke. Like, I hate to just sort of quote thought slime at length because I do too much of that. But I mean, he had this line at one point in one of the when he's one of his Tim Pool reacts. He goes, "They seem to be confused about the fact that people who disagree with you don't celebrate your disagreement. Like they're not walking up to you on the street going, 'Hey man, that thing you posted really fucking sucked. High five, dude. Way to post something that sucks.'" Oh god, yeah, fuck. I mean, the one thing you can say for Colin Powell is that he was like the most. He was the closest thing to a conscience in the Bush administration. I mean, his aides actually reported shortly before before he went to lie to the UN Security Council, that he was walking around like actually losing his shit over the speech he was going to give, saying, "I can't say this, it's bullshit." And of course, he overcame that, and he said that bullshit. But it was particularly embarrassing for him in particular because he was the guy in 2001 who was in a plane. I think it was actually like Air Force Two or something, with the Egyptian foreign minister, and they were giving sort of a little press conference, a mini press conference on the plane, and somebody asked him about Iraq in 2001 before the push for war, and asked about the genocidal sanctions, and he said, and I quote, that Iraq has no weapons of mass destruction program. It has no weapons of mass destruction, and it has not even a conventional deterrent. And therefore we consider these sanctions to have been quite effective. In other words, he was the guy who actually went on record on fucking camera, pointing out how everything he was going to say a year later was an absolute lie, and he absolutely knew it. He was also involved in, if I remember correctly, in the attempted cover-up of My Lai.
So it's not even true. It's the whole thing is just a promotion of left-wing values. Because if you don't,
It's a promotion of left-wing values. I mean, okay, sounds based, but what do you mean?
share a left-wing value, you're not a feminist.
Yeah, that. Yeah, exactly.
Gloria Steinem, one of the best-known feminists of the last 50 years, said that a female senator from Texas who was conservative, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, she said she what would she say? Something to the effect of she's a pretend woman.
No, which is, I mean, okay, it's Dennis Prager saying this, so I don't even know if she ever said anything of the sort. But the thing is, see, it turns out that ideologies have tenets, and that adherents to those ideologies are not actually necessarily keen on the people who oppose them. Oh God.
Because she was conservative. She wasn't really a woman.
Well, I think what she was saying is that she had supported all sorts of misogynistic shit, and so essentially she was a traitor to women.
Didn't Larry Elder get that? Larry Elder was called by a Los Angeles Times columnist the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, assistant. Yeah, that's right. God, what was the deal with Larry Elder? I know that name, but it's not coming to me.
So it's not even black pride.
Well, it's almost like the people who are deciding what they're proud about get to decide what aspects they're proud about and what aspects they're not. Like, if you ask me what bits of fucking Jewish history and culture I celebrate, for example, just to give one random example, I don't really have, the Zionist movement won't come up. And if you ask most trans people what kind of pride they're talking about when, Pride Month rolls around, and you won't find many of them fucking celebrating Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah, I mean, white supremacy is an ideology, and anyone can support it. Plenty of black people support white supremacy. Some of them are quite explicit about it. There's like, I mean, there's actually in like fash circles, there is a black guy who is quite famous. I forget his name. When I was like when I was data mining Stormfront years ago, I ran across posts about him. I won't say what they called him, but it was alliterative, and you can probably work it out. But he was a literally a black neo-Nazi, walked around in like refab Nazi uniform, literally a very big open celebrator of Hitler, and apparently, at least judging from these other chud pieces of shit, was somehow not entirely clear on why he wasn't accepted by the white fucking Nazis. Oh, that's unfortunate.
It's black liberals or black leftists' pride. Do they celebrate gay conservatives?
No, fuck them. They weren't there for. Yeah, fuck them.
In LGBTQIA Pride Month? Of course not.
Yeah, of course not. They suck. You'll find that people generally don't celebrate things they don't like. Sort of like you don't celebrate you don't celebrate Pride. You don't believe in celebrating Pride because that's celebrating people you are at best deeply uncomfortable with. So, yeah, we don't celebrate the people that we actually suck and would have been glad if they didn't existed.
Hate Dave Rubin.
Yeah, fuck Dave Rubin. He sucks. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You see, what the deep insight he's coming to is that people like the people that they like, and they don't celebrate people for standing for the opposite of the things they believe in. I know. I mean, it's just hard to imagine. I mean, somehow I don't think that fucking Dennis Prager, for all of his defensively displayed Jewishness, celebrates Marek Edelman.
Anyway, so much for the pride stuff. I think that should all of it should be abolished.
Well, fuck you.
I celebrate good people.
No, you don't. Good people, and it's mutual. Good people don't celebrate you. People who celebrate you are, by definition, not good.
Period. That's the only division that matters. In light of the subject, I'd like you to know that PragerU is releasing or has released.
I guess a so-called short documentary. I have that also in reaction fodder. I think I will be bringing that up. Yeah. Yeah, they think lesbians are disappearing because they refuse to acknowledge the fact that, they acknowledge the fact that there are lots of trans lesbians who are appearing. I mean, it is roughly equal numbers of people transitioning in each direction, after all.
In fact, Unwoke Inc. It is about what has happened in the corporate world.
Wow, wait a second. That symbol is almost identical to the emblem of the proscribed neo-Nazi paramilitary group in Britain, National Action.
World that has embraced the truly woke policies of the left.
Wow, I can't wait to hear about all the corporations that have embraced communism, because I mean I like to hear about victories.
And why they have done it. It's an important short documentary.
And of course it's important because it's the algorithm needs you to promote it.
Please watch it at PragerU.com or through the Prager app. So before I continue with the Fireside Chat, I'd like to remind you that the way to watch the entire Fireside Chat, and I promise you it's worth it, is simply to go to PragerU.com.
I'm the product of a fascist's nightmare.
Or the easiest is download the PragerU app. and listen to the whole fireside chat
Or at least I sort of aspire to be.
through PragerU.
Yes, don't do that. See, I mean, this is a thing they're trying to get people off of YouTube specifically because YouTube does what they call censorship. What they mean by censorship is that YouTube is not promoting them to the extent they feel they're entitled to be promoted. They went to court against YouTube to, against Google to get YouTube to just force them to give them free advertising, basically, and algorithm be damned. And the court disagreed, and so they declare that they are experiencing severe censorship. Chocolate sounds nice.
The reason we're doing this is that we fear that one day YouTube may simply say, we won't allow you any longer
Oh, wow, that would be based.
to be on YouTube. And so we are trying to
Well, maybe if you're worried about that, you should stop doing so much TOS shit.
drive as much people to go directly to PragerU.
I wonder just how many people would have to go there to completely overrun their buffers. Question from liberal listener.
So thanks, and I continue.
Okay, that's the end of that one, and we're basically coming to the end of this evening.
All right, the next.
No, yeah, we already saw this. CPI's 2022 conference was historic because they gave an award to Tara Reid. You wouldn't know what being censored was if the Catholic Church reintroduced the Index Librorum Prohibitorum tomorrow and placed all their material on it. As much people. Well, see, the idea is that people is sort of a liquid. It's not countable. You just sort of pour it. You just sort of pour as much people as you need into a vessel and... or something. Well, we got a couple of minutes. Let's preview Unwoke Inc. Oh, the Xanderhall video? Okay, cool. Xanderhall it is. Get a couple of minutes in of that.
Alright everybody, so for a little while now, I've been doing this recurring segment, and they're a lot of fun and you guys have been really enjoying them, so I figure why not keep doing them? Where we go back, like years and years ago, and we dig up an old lefty video essay from like the old, like, in my opinion,
an old lefty video essay. Yeah, gender fluid sounds like something you get on you. It sounds like something that shows up on a blacklight.
golden era of leftist like content online.
And I will add that pansexual always puts me in mind of pizza. Admittedly, it does not take much to put me in mind of pizza. But I hear pansexual, I'm thinking some fucking deep dish action.
Online. And we go over that content because surprisingly, a lot of you in my community weren't even into politics back then.
And you kind of really aren't now, because otherwise you would...
Like 3 or 4 years
be
ago, you
watching
guys
this,
weren't
Chud.
even into politics. It's bizarre to me that so many of you haven't seen these videos that are so oftentimes referenced and like so fundamental to lefty memes.
Yeah, he really does think that he is just stepping on terra nullius everywhere he goes. He is a true Columbus. Okay. Oh, he's responding to old videos because he's running out of material. I don't want him to do things. I don't want him to be on the internet either, but I mean, the stuff that the stuff that he would be doing would probably suck shit too. And with that, it is time for me to call it a night. thank you to everyone for joining. I hope you enjoy this new approach where I just sort of fire up the chud lib rotisserie all at once. Well, he's working on parts of that, I'm sure. I mostly meant that he claims to be the discoverer of things that everybody already knew about. But I may just continue with that format altogether. I mean, the main reason I do the games at the beginning is I'm kind of waiting for people to show up. I don't want to fire off my best material and nobody's there to see it. But I mean, you get to do a lot more if you just do a straight hour and a half of the chud rotisserie than if you do half an hour of gaming of some sort. And then so I may actually continue in that vein, and there may be bonus streams throughout the week where I'm working on fucking 3D animations and stuff for the stream. I've got some stuff that I'm working on there. I want to do like intros for the different dickheads that I habitually roast. And so I may see you in the afternoons at some point over the week, but I will definitely be back Friday at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Have a good night. Have a good week. Fuck Dennis Prager.